product to a power, and exponential rule. All right, so let's consider x squared y squared. Well, think about what this exponent means, right? An exponent means repeated multiplication. So it means we're taking x squared y and multiplying it by itself twice, right? 2 times. 1, 2. Because this exponent out here, this 2 out here is touching the parentheses. So that means the entire parentheses being multiplied by itself. Okay, so, well, I would take x squared times x squared, same base, add the exponents, it's x to the 4th, and then y times y is y squared. Well, if we think about that in this messy problem that I started with, right, I started with x squared y squared. Well, if I would just look inside and say x squared squared, 2 times 2 is 4, and y squared is y squared, that's my answer. So our power of a product rule simply states if I have a product, right? Product means multiplication inside, and I raise it to a power, then that power is simply raised to everything inside. So I can do it, I mean, if you want to write it all out, please do, but you don't have to. You just got to think about what is it affecting. So let's do some simplification problems. I have m times n raised to the 8th power. Well, that 8th power is going to be basically distributed to everything inside, right? The entire product. So I have m to the 8th times n to the 8th. Now that one was pretty simple because each of these just had an exponent of 1. There was nothing different. We'll get to a little more challenging one here in just a moment. In letter B, I have 3x to the 3rd. Now this is still a product, right? It's a little bit easier if there's a multiplication dot in between, but a number touching a variable is still considered a product. So this is where we have 3 cubed times x cubed. So 3 cubed is 27, and then x cubed is already simplified. So 3x all raised to the 3rd power is 27x cubed. Letter C, x squared times y to the 3rd raised to the 4th. Now we're getting into some excitement. So depending on how you do it, I'm a very visual person, so I like to write things out and say, okay, I start with x squared, I raise that to the 4th. Then I have y to the 3rd, and I raise that to the 4th. Now I can simplify and say with my x's, power to a power, I multiply. So 2 times 4 gives me x to the 8th, and then with my y's, 3 times 4 gives me y to the 12th. For some people, they can just say, okay, x squared to the 4th, y to the 3rd to the 4th. But sometimes if I don't write them out, depending on how big the problem is, sometimes I make a silly mistake or I miss something, and that's not what I want to do. So I always write them out to make sure I don't miss anything. All right, and letter D, our last one. So I have 4x squared squared. So again, I'm going to take 4 squared, right? Everything gets that squared, and then x squared squared. So 4 squared is 16. X squared squared, 2 times 2 is 4, so 16x to the 4th.